Afternoon, I'm Stacey Van Dyke. The Federal Reserve met today to discuss raising interest rates. The move is being made to combat inflation, which is at a 40-year high. Skylar Henry has details from the White House.
The Federal Reserve announced it's raising interest rates by 3/4 of a point.
High inflation imposes significant hardship, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation.
Higher interest rates make it more expensive to borrow money. That, in turn, means many people will eventually spend less. That leads to a drop in demand for goods, which should lower inflation.
Right now, demand is substantially higher than available supply, though. So we feel that there's a role for us in moderating demand. Those are the things we can affect with our policy tools.
In Philadelphia Tuesday, the president acknowledged the impact inflation has had on Americans, with the average U.S. family spending nearly $350 more per month to buy the same amount of goods they bought last year.
Inflation, it's sapping the strength of a lot of families.
Inflation is also sapping the president's poll numbers, something Republicans are quick to pounce on in this election year.
Inflation is at another 40-year high, and we had another record with gas prices hitting $5 a gallon.
This morning, President Biden sent these letters to American oil refineries, urging them to produce more gas and questioning their record profits.
In March, the price per barrel of oil was about $120 per barrel, like it is today. But in March, we were paying $4.25 per gallon of gasoline. Today, we're paying over $5. So there's a 75-cent increase. What is going on there?
In addition to increased domestic production, the U.S. is calling on global manufacturers to increase production as well. The U.S. is the world leader in oil and gas production, with Saudi Arabia second. The White House has announced President Biden will travel to Saudi Arabia next month. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Every 0.25% increase in the Fed's benchmark interest rate translates to an extra $25 a year in interest on $10,000 in debt. So a 0.75% increase would mean an extra $75 of interest for every $10,000 in debt. Meanwhile, stocks rose in roller coaster trading on Wall Street today following the Federal Reserve's sharpest hike to interest rates since 1994 and its assurance that such mega hikes would not be common. Investments from around the world, from bonds to Bitcoin, have tumbled this year. The Federal Reserve and other central banks have moved to overturn the supports they used to hold up the economy during the pandemic. The fear is that too aggressive hikes in interest rates will force the economy into a recession, even if central banks pull off the delicate trick of slowing the economy just enough to stamp out inflation without a recession. Higher interest rates push down prices for investments regardless. To the forecast, expect temperatures to keep rising as we move toward the weekend. Here are some kids already out enjoying the Shadowwood splash pad today. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson with the first look. Hutch.
Stacey, thanks so much and good afternoon, everyone. Temperatures today are pretty comfortable out there. We have a lot more wind and a couple areas seeing some thunder showers. These are moving through north central portions of Minnesota. We'll go full screen so you can get a closer look at these and we'll zoom in. There is a little bit of lightning heading out of War Road and up into Lake of the Woods as we speak. And these thunder showers extend down just near the Red Lake Falls area into the Pennington County area, as well as western reaches of Beltrami County. These are not severe. They're about 30,000 footers up there, and maybe some small softish hail from these storms here as they work their way north and east at 19 miles per hour. To the west, look what's moving our way. A batch of rain showers. Doesn't even have lightning with it. And cooler temperatures in the 60s and 50s out in the western Dakotas. Right now, we're nice and warm. We're near 80 degrees here in the valley, but a lot of us in the 60s and 70s, including 69 right now in Devil's Lake, and 75 for Fergus Falls and Detroit Lakes. That wind is pretty gusty out there, and it will continue into the evening hours as well, gusting to around 30 miles per hour is forecast. Your planner for Fargo looks like this. Temperatures will be falling tonight. We'll slip down into the 60s. We'll have a chance of sprinkles, but the best chance will be for our northern counties. I'll have hour-by-hour details on some serious heat coming away. First alert weather day for the weekend ahead for Father's Day. Details in a moment.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. We have new information now on a situation out of Otter Tail County. Officials say a Todd County deputy was on his way to pick up an inmate in Otter Tail County when a vehicle came up behind him at a high rate of speed. The deputy ran the license plate, came back as a stolen car out of Wisconsin. The driver was pulled over and taken into custody on active warrants. During the arrest, deputies had their guns drawn because it was considered a high-level traffic stop. The driver's name has not been released. Cass County says delays in reporting election results last night were due to the large number of contests on the ballot. Cass County is required by North Dakota Century Code to generate reports from all machines that were available at voting centers throughout the county. With the large number of contests, they say each report took from 90 to 120 minutes to complete and print. Once completed, those totals were brought to the Cass County Courthouse to then be tabulated. Cass County election officials say they'll be working to make the process quicker for the November election. We have results from nearly 50 races right on our website. Check out the ones you're interested in at valleynewslive.com. Just click election results for that full list. There was another round of primaries last night across the country, and Trump-backed candidates had strong showings in critical battleground states. This could have big implications for the midterms and the influence of the former president. CBS's senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is tracking all the results.
Another round of primaries and another round of decisive wins for Trump-backed Republicans, including many who've said the 2020 election was stolen. In the swing state of Nevada, Adam Laxalt will be the GOP nominee for U.S. Senate. He's endorsed by former President Trump and has supported false claims of election fraud. He'll take on Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto in the fall, in one of those races that could determine the balance of power in the Senate. But also in Nevada, Jim Marchant is the Republican nominee for Secretary of State. In Nevada, like many other states, the Secretary of State is elected and manages elections, and Marchant has said he would not have certified the 2020 election results. So if he wins this fall, he's among the Trump-backed deniers of the 2020 election results who would oversee elections in 2024. Then there's South Carolina, where Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's been critical of the former president, defeated Trump-backed candidate Katie Arrington in the state's 1st congressional district. But fellow Congressman Tom Rice, one of 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach the former president, lost his re-election bid to a Trump-backed state lawmaker, Russell Fry. Finally, a big sign of worry for Democrats from South Texas, where Republican Mayra Flores decisively won a special election to replace Democratic congressman who resigned his seat early. Her win is notable because the district's majority Latino, and she'd become the first ever Mexican-born congresswoman to serve in the House. It's also the first blue-to-red flip of a House district that was won by President Biden in 2020. So it's an early warning sign for Democrats of potential losses to come this November. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Washington.
As the war in Ukraine continues, the U.S. is expected to announce that it will send $1 billion in military aid to Ukraine in an effort to help stall Russia's slow but steady march to conquer the eastern region. According to officials, the aid is expected to include missile launchers and more rounds for the high-mobility artillery rocket systems. The aid comes as U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin held a meeting of more than 45 nations to discuss support for Ukraine. And tonight, the NATO nations will gather to discuss the addition of new members, including Ukraine, Sweden, and Finland. But all 30 members must agree to admit the new members. The gunman who killed 10 people at a racist attack at a Buffalo supermarket was charged today with federal hate crimes and could face the death penalty if he's convicted. The criminal complaint filed against Peyton Gendron coincided with a visit to Buffalo by Attorney General Merrick Garland. Gendron was already facing a mandatory life sentence without parole if convicted on previously filed state charges in the May 14th rampage at Tops Market. The federal hate crimes case is based partly on documents in which Gendron laid out his radical racist worldview and extensive preparation for that attack, some of which he posted online shortly before he started shooting.